We've seen a real wave of state legislation this session on voting, and it's transforming our democracy. And what it's doing is creating a fault line between states that are working to strengthen our democracy, and then those that are really restricting it. I think a lot of attention has really rightfully been paid to all of these legislative threats to voting that are working their way to the state legislatures this session. But it's important to note that 2/3 of the states have enacted legislation that expands voting access this session. What our research shows is that over a quarter of eligible voters in the country live in states that are really solidly moving in the right direction. And so that's like 70 million people who are really having their voting rights expanded this session, and that it's important to look to those states as examples and to see that there is a lot of strength in this movement, and that it's important that we keep at it. In Kentucky, we saw that increasing access to the ballot does not have to be a partisan issue. In-person early voting is really important to make sure that all voters are able to vote. What that does is it ensures that voters have a chance to fix like minor problems on their absentee ballot envelopes so their vote is actually counted and not just thrown away. In addition to creating a cure process to make sure that voters are notified of problems with their ballots and given a chance to correct them, they also expanded access to mail voting for everyone, and really including folks with disabilities. Come January 2022, more than 20,000 people who are currently on parole or probation will have their voting rights restored, because Washington passed legislation that makes sure that when a person is released from prison, they immediately have their rights restored. I think most notably, Virginia passed the nation's first ever state pre-clearance law. What that law does is its goal is to prevent race-based discrimination in voting laws by requiring that localities get certain changes, like eliminating polling places or moving polling places. They get these types of changes reviewed and approved to make sure that they don't have a discriminatory impact. What that would do is kind of reinstate the Bipartisan Voting Rights Act. It would update the pre-clearance formula, and so it would make sure that when states have a history of voting rights violations, that before they pass new laws, that they actually have those laws examined by either the AG or the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, and make sure that the laws that they're passing don't have a discriminatory impact and also don't have a discriminatory intent. Voters have a chance to make their voices heard on proposals 3 and 4 in November. Both of these are proposals to amend New York's really outdated constitution. So proposal 4 would finally allow for no excuse absentee voting, and proposal 3 would allow for same-day registration. So if those measures pass at the ballot this November, then the legislature will be able to enact same-day registration. We have a set of states that are working hard to restrict the rights of their voters, and there are a set of states that are really working hard to expand them. And so I'm very hopeful about that legislation that is passing in those states that is really expanding voter access. And I'm also really hopeful to see that there are examples of real bipartisan movement on really good legislation, and just recognizing this doesn't have to be a partisan issue. Increased ballot access is good for both parties.